Revelation chapter 21, I'm going to begin reading in verse 1, and I'm reading from the New International Version. Then I saw a new heavens and a new earth, for the first heavens and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of the heavens from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Now the dwelling of God is with men, with the people, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." So I want to begin this morning by thinking about the ending of the story of human life. The truth is that life on earth makes no sense without our understanding of where this is going. And the book of Revelation is written in part for us to understand where we're going. God has ways in our lives of giving us little glimpses of the future so that we can retain hope. Those mountaintop experiences where the future is so clear for you, you're not meant to stay there. That's a picture of who you're becoming, not who you are. Jesus had the same experience. Some of you will remember. He was on a mountain. He took his three innermost circle of disciples with him up there, Peter, James, and John. And while he was on that mountain, he was fully transfigured. He received for a moment his resurrected body. And the resurrection of the dead was realized on that mountain. Moses and Elijah came and spoke with Jesus. Peter was so caught up in the moment, he thought, this is it. And Jesus has to remind Peter, this is not where we are. This is where we're headed. This is God's encouragement to us so we know where this thing is going, but we're not going to stay here. In fact, Jesus had to get down off that mountain, and before he could finally live into the vision he had up there, he had to go through the cross. There was only one way for Jesus to receive that transfiguration fully, and that was to go through the cross and be crucified, dead and buried, and it was only afterwards that what he saw on that mountain would be true. The same is true of your life and mine. But then we have to travel down that mountain and do the hard work with God of getting to what we just saw from the heights. Great confusion comes, church. Great confusion comes in trying to interpret the meaning of a story in the middle of it. That's what the book of Revelation and some of the other texts of Scripture that talk about the future are for. So that we can remember that our moment does not define every moment. There's something else that's coming, and God is in control, maybe not of every decision. He doesn't will to take away our free will, but he is in control of the arc of history. So today, we're going to consider the trajectory both of history and of our lives as we think about what the Christian Scriptures say about the beginning, about the middle, and about the end of human life. We're going to start with the beginning. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, we find these words. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So for the prophets and the apostles who gave us the Christian Scriptures, human life, as is true with all life, begins as nothing. Where were you before you were born? Nowhere. Nothing. Now, nothing is a hard thing to conceive of. I mean, try to think about nothing and you'll come up with something, right? So the Hebrew people use this idea of chaos, of nothingness, of lifelessness, of the primordial soup out of which creation has come. They use the image of salt water. So anytime you see the word sea or waters in the Old Testament, it is often a metaphor for chaos, for lifelessness, for the forces that work to destroy, for the original primordial shape of creation when God first decided to create. Those are the seas. For the writers of Scripture, God created by speaking into that chaos. There's an author, his name is John Lennox. He's a professor of mathematics at Oxford University, and he wrote a book, God's Undertaker, and it's a book defending the claims of Christianity against what's called the new atheism. And he's talking about this issue of information. Listen to what Dr. Lennox has to say. In order to grasp even more clearly the issues involved in thinking about the origin of life, we must now move beyond the level of proteins to the molecular level, beneath which we find another fundamental building block of life that is much more complex than protein, the DNA molecule. One of the greatest scientific discoveries of all time has been the nature and significance of this information-bearing macromolecule. For a living cell is not merely matter, it is matter replete with information. According to Richard Dawkins, what lies at the heart of every living thing is not a fire, warm breath, nor a spark of life. It is information, words, instruction. Think of 1 billion discrete digital characters. If you want to understand life, think about digital technology. A little later, the DNA of an E. coli bacterium is about 4 million letters long and would fill 1,000 pages in a book, whereas the human genome is over 3.5 billion letters long and would fill a whole library. As a matter of interest, the actual length of DNA, tightly coiled in a single cell of the human body, is roughly 2 meters. Since there are about 10 trillion cells in the human body, the total length of DNA is a mind-boggling 20 trillion meters. You and I are created in part by the transfer of information from the divine mind of God and the transfer of energy, which is called spirit in the Bible, from the life force of God. And those two things have come together to order the chaos. And here now we stand, and planets spin, and bacteria do their thing. We've been called out of the chaos of non-existence by the Word and the Spirit of God. And the Hebrew prophets were so right, more right than they had any right to be, when they said that life comes as a response to the speaking of God. You and I and all that lives were called, even commanded, out of the nothing. And that's the beginning, according to the Christian Bible. Let's look at the middle. We're back to Revelation chapter 21. Then I saw a new heavens and a new earth, for the first heavens and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. What does the sea mean? Chaos, disorder. Verse 2, I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of the heavens from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and will be their God. Now, obviously, these verses, I'm talking about the middle of human experience. These verses are describing the end. But there are some interesting observations about our current reality that are buried in this future hope. The first is the observation that I was pointing out just a moment ago, that there is no sea. You and I came out of the nothing, and it's still with us. There's a part of each of us that wants to be back where we were. And some of you wants to go back there because being nothing is easy. Being nothing comes with no responsibilities. There's no work to do. There's no effort to put in. And the further humanity gets from God, the more the nothing is appealing. And so God has allowed us to keep the nothingness with us in this world for a period of time. And so the chaos remains with us. The suffering remains with us. The disorder remains with us. It's not entire. God has created this world as more living than dying, but death is here. The seas are still with us. But did you notice, in the new heavens and the new earth, there will be no sea? It's a great promise. The second observation we see in these verses is that in the new heavens and the new earth, God will be our God. It's because he's not yet our God. He's your God. You've accepted him as your king. You trust him as your ruler. You believe he's leading you to a future. But he is not with us the way we need him to be with us. And the scriptures confess that. The scriptures promise you that a day is coming when that conversation will happen. A day is coming when you will see with your eyes and feel with your hands and smell with your nose the real God of all creation in the same room with you. But it's not yet. His promise is that one day he will be with you as you need him to be. Again, the problem is we can't interpret this story from its midpoint. Christianity reminds us that right now, as dark as it may feel, as lonely as it may feel, is temporary. There is a day coming. We have to begin to imagine the earth as a womb. And we are fetuses. Humanity was never intended to remain here forever. The earth is the birthplace of humanity, but it's not its final destination. There's only so much a fetus could understand about the universe given its location in it. You and I are also in an embryonic state. We are becoming something here. None of you chose to be alive. For a time it's been forced on you, but we are here now to choose whether we want it. He's offering us life, but life comes from God and it has to be consistent with his character. So the life God offers has to look like God's life. We don't get to do with this gift what we wish to do with it. It was given freely, but it comes with conditions. And this world is a world in which you and I are choosing not only if we want life, but if we want it on God's terms. And if we don't, then God will return us to where he found us. This is not a world of beings, it is a world of becomings. Let's take a quick look at the end as we try to wrap all this up. Revelation 21, verse 4. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. I can talk a lot, as I have today, about the purpose of our life right now, this purpose of choice, but I can say almost nothing about why you were created. You were not created for this choice. This choice is the beginning of why you were created. You have to make it before you find out what it is that God's created you for. So we only know about what's going on in this world, and this world is about choice, and it's about living into the future, desiring the future, longing for the future that Jesus describes, pursuing that life on God's terms. That's what this world is about. But the next one, we don't even know. You and I are artificial intelligence. We are AI. God is the real thing. He's given us this life to make our choice. But after, when we're raised from the dead, he will unleash those of faith on the cosmos, and you and I cannot imagine what that life is going to be. Some of us will be stillborn in the new heavens and the new earth. Others of us will be born into it. What do you imagine a fetus feels about birth? When the contractions start and the pressure comes and the squeezing and the being forced out, can you imagine? It probably thinks it's dying, which is what death feels like to us. But what Jesus says is that what feels like dying is being born. What feels like the end is the beginning. What feels like hopelessness is an opportunity to choose. What feels like chaos is the establishment of free will. If chaos wasn't with us, you would have no choice. This is the world in which we live. I want to encourage you folks. Encourage you to understand that the purpose of your life is not bound up in what you achieve. It's not bound up in the legacy that you leave. It's not bound up essentially in what you do. What the scriptures teach is that what matters to God is who you are while you're doing it. Everything we build is building castles in the sand. The book of Revelation shows us in visceral terms that everything we build is for the fire. Nothing you and I build is going to last. Some of us live to see the tearing down of our sand castles. Others of us get to die and our children watch it happen, but it's all destined for destruction. We're here to choose who we will be no matter our circumstances. And it's that character that will last into eternity. And that character will be unleashed on the universe in due time. We are here in this furnace to be refined. And so the world is a womb. It's a testing ground of faith. It is a place of becoming. And you have been lied to. You have been lied to when the world tells you that your value is about what you produce, that your worthiness is about how you compare to the rest of the people in the room in terms of your gifting or your achievements. You have been lied to. Your worth is dependent on your faithfulness and trust in the God who called you out of the nothing. You can work a menial job for the rest of your life and not have 2 cents to rub together and be richer in kingdom character than a person who has achieved the highest level of leadership in culture. Every story has a beginning. And every story, no matter how it begins, has this ending. Are you ready to begin?